Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Bald Bombshell. Now, as of recording this video, it is December 24th, 2023, and hopefully by the time this video gets out, it'll be like in January, like after the new year 100%. And I just want to say happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody. I know, like, for the students, it's probably a stressful time for finals. I'm a college student myself, and oh my gosh, when I had my finals, I was not into it. So shout out to y'all, and I hope everybody's enjoying like the little break for the winter. Now, I also want to thank everybody who subscribed. I have 30 subscribers. I'm so happy, and it's from like the time I posted the Evolution of Crybaby part 1 up until now. The video has reached like 405 views and 23 likes, and I'm just so glad you guys enjoy the content that I make. You know, I have no idea where I want to go with my channel, but I do know that I'm just gonna keep going, and whatever direction it takes me, that's where it takes me. Now, on to like the mini topic that I'm gonna get into before getting into the video. So what I want to touch on briefly, really quickly, is that fans have been getting cryptic messages from Melanie Martinez and her team. So I saw this post a couple days ago, or maybe like 1 or 2 weeks ago, where it was all 9 of the cryptic messages that fans have been getting. Now, I don't think every fan is going to get all 9 messages. I do think that every fan individually, if you are subscribed to her mailing list via email or text, you're gonna get a message. I got one in my email. I had made sure and went and checked, and I'm like, do I have one? And I did have one. So I did some digging, which it wasn't that hard, but like they made me work for it. Melanie's source on Instagram, shout out to them. They posted all 9 of the messages that fans have gotten, and I don't know specifically what these means right now, but I probably will make that like a whole mini video, like after I do like the Portals album. But that is quickly and briefly what I wanted to talk about. Okay, onto the video. K-12 is the continuation to the Crybaby saga during her adolescent, young adult years. Now, if you are unfamiliar with whom or what Crybaby is, I recommend going back and watching this video I made on Crybaby. I covered everything in that video, and I recommend giving it a watch before watching this one, since this is the second part to Crybaby. To give you guys some overview of K-12, the film was released in 2019, and it's an hour and a half long, and you can find this film on YouTube. Now, it is also considered a musical horror because the K-12 album combines with the film, and then there's also a scene with someone being unalived. Now, there are 13 songs on the album, and this does not include the After School EP. And it is Melanie Martinez's sophomore album, which debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 200. Now, it was also originally supposed to be released in 2017, but it kept getting pushed back, so everything was released in 2019. Now, the album songs include Wheels on the Bus, Class Fight, The Principal, Show and Tell, Nurse's Office, Drama Club, Strawberry Shortcake, Lunchbox Friends, Orange Juice, Detention, Teacher's Pet, High School Sweethearts, and finally Recess. Now, I'm not going to get into the After School EP for this specific video, mainly because it doesn't really combine with the film like how K-12 does. I might talk about that in a later video, but I would not be discussing the After School EP in this video. K-12 was Melanie Martinez's first feature film that she based around her album of the same name. It follows Crybaby during her stay at K-12 Sleepaway School, which is similar to a boarding school because all of the students go through elementary, middle, and high school there, and it doesn't seem like they leave at all. Now, here she makes new friends that have the same supernatural abilities just like her. However, during her stay at K-12 Sleepaway School, Crybaby starts to realize that there is something horribly wrong here. The principal, staff, and teachers are all corrupt, and the students are being brainwashed to believe everything is supposed to be this way. She ends up freeing the students from this mind control, which leads to them revolting against the principal and the greater plan being put in place between Crybaby and her friends to get rid of K-12 Sleepaway School altogether. However, the principal's son takes over after his death, and he wants revenge against Crybaby and everybody else that was involved for killing his father. So during the school dance, he makes all of the students dance until they die, but Crybaby is able to free everyone and sends the school away in a giant bubble. K through 12 is then left on a major cliffhanger, bro, about what happens after everyone is freed. So the ending is up for interpretation. Now, the film begins with Crybaby getting ready for school while describing a dream she had. In this dream, she felt like she was trapped in rising heat while her gum roots pushed her teeth out of its sockets, and the voice of 1,000 angels told her the pain was only temporary. Hell is a place where damned souls go to burn in a lake of fire, and the smoke of the tormented will rise for all eternity, and blase blase. Crybaby's dream can be interpreted as her in hell metaphorically. Now, on her calendar, Crybaby has the first day of hell written on it, and she even puts a heart around it. And she continues to talk about how the first day of hell is the first day of school. So hell for Crybaby is having to go through K-12 Sleepaway School. Now, the main reason why I really wanted to touch on this dream is because she mentions Lilith as one of the angels in her dream, which is an interesting choice for Melanie Martinez to make and add in her film. And here's why. If you are unaware who Lilith is, she is technically a fictional character that has become a feminist icon and has several video games, movies, and TV shows based around her. In the Britannica and Jewish Virtual Library, and even the Occult Live, and one verse in the Bible, and some Jewish text, Lilith is said to have been a demonic female figure from Jewish folklore who preyed upon women and children. Now, I read through the Jewish Virtual Library article surrounding Lilith, and there has said to have only been one reference of Lilith in any type of religious text, and she is described in Isaiah 34:14 as a demonic figure that wreaks havoc on the land. However, in some Jewish literature, Lilith is said to have been Adam's first wife before Eve, and the mother of his demonic offspring after she was banished from the Garden of Eden. Now in the Britannica, it did mention Genesis 1:27 as a reference to Lilith. I did not find this mention of Lilith in Genesis chapter 1 or 2, maybe because I have the New International Version, but she's also not mentioned in the Torah, so I'm not sure if this specific verse is from a different version of the Bible or a biblical text in general. Now, Lilith has become a Hollywood name to say, with TV shows, movies, and even video games based around her character. Now, one movie that I do remember watching about the toxicity of purity culture is called Pure on Hulu. It was a part of Hulu's Into the Dark series in 2019, and it's based around this girl named Shay who goes on this purity retreat with her biological dad, who she literally met right after her mom died, and her half-sister Jo. Now, her and a couple of the girls that she's bunked with snuck out of the retreat to go to a bonfire and try to summon Lilith, and it ends up happening because it turns out that Shay was not a virgin, and so she was the only one who could actually summon Lilith. The reason why I go into the history about Lilith and all of this is because in K through 12, Lilith actually has a very prominent role. Granted, it's a background role, but in K through 12, Lilith is the original woman to how Crybaby and all the other empaths got their powers. And I'll talk more on this later because Lilith actually has an appearance in the film. The next scene is Crybaby on the bus sitting next to Angelita, who is her best friend. Here's where we realize how much control Crybaby has over her powers, because she starts using them to play little tricks on the other students and the bus driver. Now, a couple of things I wanted to point out in this particular scene. Angelita is also an empath, which is revealed when she and Crybaby save everyone from drowning. And there's also another student on the bus that is also an empath. She comes back up later, so we're going to talk more on her later. And the main antagonist, Kelly, is also introduced in this scene. Now, once Crybaby and Angelita are in the classroom, we get a glimpse of the corruption inside of the school. Now, we see a teacher snorting chalk. I'm going to put those in quotations because it is not chalk, but yeah. And then there's also a specific scene, the Pledge of Allegiance scene, where Henry, who is a student, refuses to stand for the pledge. And that teacher who was snorting chalk vaguely threatens him to stand, or else something will happen to him. And he continues to sit and protest and ends up being punished for it by the school staff, who seem more like enforcers than anything else. Now, during nap time, Crybaby and Angelita are inside of a fort they created with their powers. In this scene in particular, I think Crybaby and Angelita are doing something similar to astral projection, where their physical bodies are asleep to other people, but they are awake to each other, because in the fort they have a whole conversation about how Kelly doesn't like Crybaby, and they call Crybaby's mom to see what she would do about the situation. And here's why I say this. Before Crybaby and Angelita went into the fort, they activated their powers, and while inside the fort, Kelly puts a snake inside of Crybaby's bed. Now, in that moment, Crybaby instantly wakes up with blacked out eyes. Now, although her physical body is not actually seen in the bed, I think when Kelly puts the snake in it, I believe that Crybaby's physical body was visible to other students, Kelly included, because it wouldn't make sense for Kelly to just put a snake in Crybaby's bed if Crybaby wasn't in the bed. So I feel like they were doing something similar to astral projection, which is why we don't see Crybaby's body until she comes back out of the fort. Once nap time is over, the scene cuts to a playground sign that says the playground is for display only. This is also the scene where Kelly and Crybaby end up fighting. While Kelly is talking to her entourage, I call them the other Kellys, the boy she likes is trying to talk to Crybaby. And when she finds this out, she gets angry and violently attacks Crybaby. Now, Crybaby doesn't really fight back because she said earlier that she feels like using her powers would kind of be an advantage for her, but she also doesn't know how to fight, so she ends up using her powers to defend herself. Now, 3 things I want to point out. One is that the playground is being monitored. Like the rest of the school, K-12 Sleepaway School is being monitored at all times, which is why it's so easy for people to see different things. I want to actually get into that later, because it actually comes back up on several occasions. Now, the second thing is Kelly talking about Crybaby's outfit. Now, while Kelly is talking to the other Kellys, it is revealed that she has attempted to talk to Crybaby about her choice of clothing and how ugly and embarrassing it was. Now, one thing that I've realized when watching K-12 a bunch of times is that there is no real reason for Kelly not to like Crybaby. Like, Kelly doesn't have an actual reason why she doesn't like Crybaby or what her issue is. She just doesn't like her because of her individualism. And here's why I say this. Kelly is the bully in K-12. She is the main antagonist. And she represents the status quo in school. She considers herself important and manipulates other people to do what she wants, to get what she wants. But Crybaby threatens that status quo with how she represents herself. Crybaby is very unique in her own way, and she is comfortable in her skin. And Kelly is threatened by this. So Kelly bullies her for it, and later on in the film, she actually tries to befriend Crybaby to get her to be a Kelly, but it doesn't work. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about with this particular scene is everybody seeing Crybaby's powers. My main question throughout the film when watching it was, why can't other people see empaths' powers? Like, why can't people who don't have empathic powers see when the other empaths are activating their ability? Now, if you watched K-12, you would notice how non-empaths can't actually see the blacked out eyes, but they can see like physical manifestations of the power if it's visible to the human eye. And a couple examples of this is when Celeste used her powers on the bus, but the girl next to her didn't see the blacked out eyes, but she did see when the boy's hand started to blow up, basically. And another example is when Crybaby uses her powers on the playground. Other kids could see the floating and the hair strangulation, as well as the teacher when it was being recorded. And another example is Crybaby using her powers in the principal scene, where she literally activates her ability and nobody else can see this. And then I think the last good example is Fleur peeling the orange in midair, because nobody else saw it but Crybaby's friend group, and Crybaby's friend group are all empaths. And it just leads me to more questions like, do they forget Crybaby has powers after she uses them? Is it kind of like a Men in Black thing, where you see it one time and then you forget about it, but you can keep seeing it and it just makes you forget about it? And another question I had is, why don't the males in K-12 have empathic powers? Because there's one specific male in K-12 who likes Crybaby, and he notices her and her individualism, but he doesn't have the blacked out eyes. Now, I'm not saying that just because he likes and thinks he understands Crybaby that he should have the empathic powers. I'm not saying that at all. Even though the spit bubble thing was his idea, I'm not saying that he deserves to have some type of power as his reward. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm more focused and questioning is, if you go back and look at Crybaby, you look now, K-12, and even Portals, from what has been released, no male in the Crybaby universe has had the empathetic power. Only females, only women have the empathy power. Every empath in K-12 and even Crybaby, they were women. So I'm more curious on how come there are no males in this universe with the empathy power. That's probably something I'll get into later though. After Crybaby and Kelly's fight, they are sent to the principal's office, which is where we find out that the principal is forcing medications onto the students as a way to brainwash and control them, taking away their ability to think for themselves. Another good example of the corruption within K-12 Sleepaway School, specifically from the principal's end, is him firing Mrs. Harper, who was a trans teacher, because he thinks that her lifestyle will influence the students. However, his actions and his words don't match up. When Mrs. Harper was telling him that she would like to stay at K-12 Sleepaway School because the kids connect with her and she loves her job, but she has to be her most authentic self, she is met with ridicule and dismissed and discarded because the principal doesn't see her lifestyle as something he wants around the students. This is basically him disguising his care for the students with his own bigotry, because he doesn't really care about the students of K-12. He only wants them to believe what he is training them to think. A very good example of this is in the drama club scene, where the drama teacher assigns roles to everyone, and Crybaby doesn't like the role that she is given because it feeds into the misogynistic views on women. And she asks for a different part that isn't so domesticated to what she's given, but she's met with ridicule and is taunted for it, and is even told that women being the president or anything of higher authority is basically a boys only role because women are too emotional to handle the power, and she basically tells them off, but in a nice way. However, she ends up being forced to do that part anyway, regardless of what she wants. None of the adults within K-12 Sleepaway School actually care about the students. They're only interested in pushing their own agenda on them, stopping any form of free thinking and individualism, because anything that they can't understand is deemed unnatural or different. Now, before I continue, there's a scene before the drama club scene that I want to discuss, which is the nurse's office scene. When Crybaby and Angelita are at the nurse's office, they end up being tied up and drugged by the nurses and almost tested on. But a pink door rises from the floor and they're saved by Lilith. She frees them, and when they ask her to take them with her because they basically almost died, she tells them no and says that they need to experience the pain for their character development. Now, when she showed up, the main question I had was, why did she choose to interfere at that moment? If you go back to Crybaby album, Crybaby wasn't an empath, so her interfering didn't make any sense because she wasn't an empath, so she didn't have access to any type of power or her powers in Crybaby. However, in K through 12, it's a little bit different because Crybaby almost died a handful of times, and Lilith didn't interfere then, so it's kind of like if they needed to suffer on Earth, like she said, why save them from possible experimentation or death in the first place? The only answer that I can think for this is that Crybaby and Angelita needed to free everyone first before dying. That's the only answer I could come up with, maybe. If you have an answer, let me know in the comments, because I surely don't have an answer as to why she saved them if they needed to experience pain in order to die. I don't know. After their encounter with the nurses, Crybaby and Angelita go to their respective classes, and this is when the drama club incident takes place. Now, earlier I mentioned that Crybaby was ridiculed by the teacher and a student for wanting a role that wasn't so quote unquote domesticated. So I'm going to pick back up there. Now, after telling off the student politely, Crybaby was still forced to play that role, and during the play, she unintentionally uses her powers to free the other students, leading to a rebellion against the principal, ending with the students unaliving him in a very old type of way, where he was left in 4 pieces. So, anyways, once Crybaby and Angelita took care of the body, they met up with Celeste, who earlier I mentioned was the girl on the bus who used her powers against that boy who was messing with her hair. Yeah, they're friends. So they meet up with Celeste, and a conversation about the female anatomy ensues. Now, this scene isn't of any actual relevance to the story or plot, as well as the next few scenes, so I'm just going to skip ahead to the lunch scene. Now, the lunch scene is where Kelly tries to get Crybaby to become a Kelly, but it doesn't really work out because they're all superficial, and so they want superficial things. However, Crybaby wants something authentic. She wants an authentic friendship, she wants genuine connection, and they don't want that, so obviously their values don't align. Now, this is where Crybaby meets Magnolia, and she also realizes that Fleur is an empath. However, Crybaby can't just go up to Fleur like she did with Magnolia, because she's sitting with the other Kellys. She is one of the Kellys, so she can't just go up to her and be like, hey, you want to be my friend? No, it's not going to work out. So, in order to get close to her, she starts a food fight as a distraction, only for Kelly to leave with her from the cafeteria. Now, this is a major trigger warning because the topic I am going to be discussing is related to eating disorders and body dysmorphia. If you find this topic to be sensitive or triggering for you in any way, please skip ahead. I am going to try to timestamp the video by specific topics or scenes that I am covering. And if you find any of the topics that I'm going to be talking about from now up until I think 2 or 3 more topics to be triggering to you or affecting you in any way mentally, please stop watching or skip ahead because there will be, I think, 1 or 2 more scenes after this that are going to have a warning sign or a disclaimer up because of how sensitive it may be to other people. So if you find anything that I am going to be talking about during this video triggering for you, please skip ahead or stop watching. Thank you, and on to the topic. Now, after Crybaby follows Kelly and Fleur to the girls' bathroom, we see Kelly encouraging Fleur to throw up her lunch. It's then revealed that Fleur has an eating disorder and it's been causing issues in her home life, her personal life, even her school life. Now, what exactly is an eating disorder? Eating disorders are serious and fatal illnesses associated with these severe disturbances in the way people view food. Now, there are 3 common types of eating disorders. The first one is anorexia, which is a condition where people tend to avoid food or eat small portions of a specific food. Bulimia is a condition where people have episodes of binge eating and then it is followed by behaviors to get rid of that food quickly. And the last one is binge eating disorder, which causes people to overeat, which can lead to obesity. I think Fleur has anorexia because she only eats oranges and she's constantly checking her weight to see if she has gained or lost any pounds. Her family has also noticed her anorexia as well, and they want her to get better, but due to peer pressure, her self image is distorted. She doesn't think that she's deserving of any love or kindness because of how people have treated her. I think the way Crybaby gave Fleur her own set of eyes so Fleur could see how she looked from Crybaby's perspective is my favorite part of the entire film. You can just tell how genuine and sincere Crybaby is and how she only wanted to comfort Fleur instead of telling her that she's pretty just the way she is and she doesn't need to do this. I think when people try to comfort others who have similar issues as this with you don't need to do this, you're pretty just the way you are, it makes them feel worse, and I feel like Crybaby's approach was much more effective. Now, she tells Fleur that bodies don't define people because they're temporary and ever changing. And Fleur's response is what makes me believe that her desire to fit in caused her eating disorder. If you look at the other Kellys, Kelly herself, and the way that they have superficial values and how they look and how they dress and what they eat, which are oranges, they all have eating disorders. And I feel like Kelly, because she's the ringleader of the it crowd, she encourages them to feed into their insecurity because she does it. It's like they're sacrificing themselves to become somebody else that they don't want to be. And instead of Crybaby combating Fleur's response, she just accepts it and hugs her because she knows what it feels like to want to fit in. After the food fight, Leo, the principal's son, is introduced, and Crybaby ends up getting detention for starting the food fight. The only thing of importance in the detention scene is Crybaby and the other students getting drugged by the staff members, and Leo saving Crybaby due to empathic influence. So we're just going to skip ahead a little bit. The next thing that comes up is the locker room scene where Ben sneaks a love poem into Crybaby's locker, and Leo finds out that Crybaby and Angelita, as well as Celeste in a sense, are responsible for his father's unalivement. And this is where Leo starts to plan his revenge. Now, one thing I do want to question, because I mentioned this earlier, how cameras are everywhere in the school, including the girls' locker room and bathroom. This is how Leo found out that Crybaby and Angelita and maybe Celeste are the cause of his father's unalivement. And it's like, why are there cameras in the girls' bathroom and locker room? It kind of just starts the series of questions of, are there cameras that face the stalls or look into the stalls? It's just so weird. It's like, what? But back to the part where Leo starts planning his revenge. This is brought back up later on, so I'll explain it later because it comes back up. So, the next scene that I'm about to discuss, I want to give a slight trigger warning to, because I will be talking about predatory behavior against a minor. And if you find this topic to be distressing in any type of way, skip ahead or stop watching altogether. Again, I will try to timestamp the video so you have the option to skip ahead. However, if that doesn't work, just stop watching. This is the only scene where I am actually going to be talking about the song as well, because the song Teacher's Pet offers a deeper look into the power dynamic and relationship between Angelita and her teacher. So let's get into it. So in the scene, Angelita is in class and her teacher seem to have something much more inappropriate going on, because she writes him inappropriate notes. They're always giving each other the looks, and when they're alone, they are too close to each other, and it's like they're just in each other's personal space. And the fact that he is married with a child, having an affair with one of his students who is a minor, is very telling about the dynamic between him and Angelita and his moral compass. He invites her to stay after class, and she does. However, he ends up shrinking her down to microscopic size in order to dissect her. But Crybaby sees what's happening. She's very observant, and she stops him before he can do anything else. It ends up freeing Angelita. I feel like this specific part kind of summarizes the whole relationship. He has the power in the relationship, and he is using her to satiate his desire, and he can end this at any time, but he chooses not to until she starts to get a mind of her own. Teacher's Pet is in Angelita's perspective, the song specifically, and it's very clear that this man is taking advantage of her. She's in this quote unquote relationship with the married man that is using her for sexual gratification. He likes that she's young and naive, and he can control her. The problem is that she is a minor. Angelita is still a minor. Angelita is still his student, and he still has a wife and a child. He's putting his life and career in jeopardy. That is why he keeps her a secret, and she's constantly asking him, why am I a secret if I'm so special? Why do you love me, but your actions and your words contradict each other? And he is just using her, and he's telling her what she wants to hear so she won't leave him. But Angelita starts to feel trapped in this affair because she knows he'll never leave his family for her. And I think he eventually pauses the relationship with Angelita, but she actually ends it because she doesn't want to be someone's secret anymore, and she's not something that you can control, and she makes that very clear. There are two scenes that I'm going to skip over because they don't have relevance to the story, which brings us to the finale. So let's get into it. Now, Ben is going to tell Crybaby that he was the one who wrote the poem. He was just trying to figure out a good way to do that. Before he could even get a chance, though, Leo approaches Crybaby first and tells her that he was the one who wrote the poem, and he asks her if she would like to go to the dance with him, and she said yes. Here's my issues with this. Crybaby blindly believed that Leo wrote the poem and didn't fact check it at all. If you wrote the poem, what was in the poem? That's what I would have asked, but this is not my story. And her saying yes to Leo's offer when she's an integral part of a greater plan to get rid of K-12 school, it was just so irritating to watch. Because in the scene where Leo discovers that Crybaby, Angelita, partly Celeste as well, are the reasons why his father had died, they were discussing their own plans to get rid of K-12 Sleepaway School. And the main part of the plan was Crybaby getting Leo to let her in his office to hijack the speakers and set everyone free. By accepting his proposal, she ultimately put everyone's lives in jeopardy for a few hours of dancing with the principal. By abandoning the plan meant to free everyone, not just herself and her friends. Once she actually gets to the dance, her friends confront her about this and she tells them the truth. And they're disappointed, rightfully so, by her actions because not only did she put herself first, but she did not understand what that meant and the consequences of that. Because after she leaves and she finally realizes how bad she fucked up, it was already too late because Leo had started to put his plan in effect. Now, the reason why Leo even asked Crybaby to the dance is so that she can be in the gym with the other students when he starts the Dance of Doom. He wants everyone to pay for what happened to his dad, and what better place to do it than the school dance where everyone will be in one place at one time. When he starts the music, everyone is forced to dance forever, and the only way to stop the music is to stop the speaker. However, the only person that can do that at this time is Crybaby because she's not there, and Leo does not know that she isn't there. He's assuming that she's there. So Crybaby was able to disguise herself as someone else. She hijacks the speakers and frees everyone, which was part one of her plan. The last part was getting rid of K-12 Sleepaway School. But how can you get rid of a big school like that? Well, after Ben finds Crybaby and he helps her out and confesses to her, he gave her an idea to get rid of the school. He proposes trapping the school in a giant spit bubble to lift it up off the ground, which would cause it to fly away or they would destroy it in the process, and it works. My issue with this scene, though, is that because Ben doesn't have any powers, so him using his own spit to help Crybaby make that giant spit bubble made zero sense. Because how did he do it without any powers? Now, after the school gets sent away or destroyed in a giant bubble, and everyone is freed, Lilith comes back and they all enter the gates to what I'm assuming is a portal to another place. Even Ben, but Crybaby hesitates, and that is how the story ends. K through 12 told a story of friendship, trauma, and so much more. Melanie gave music and a movie with a message about authenticity and modern society and how we should break away from it. The film celebrates individualism and also talks about some very important issues such as bullying, self-acceptance, women's reproductive health, the double standards between men and women, boys and girls in society, and also overthrowing corruption. And that is it for the video, guys. Yay! Oh my god. So I want to thank everybody so much for watching. If you made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will probably be making a follow-up to this specific video because I did not talk about the album for K through 12. I did speak about one song, but I didn't go into like great details that I wanted to about the K through 12 album. So stay tuned for that video. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I enjoy making it, and see you guys in the next one. Okay, take care.